Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and the light of the infinite Creator. I communicate now. Questioner. I was thinking the best way to do the book is to continue working on the history of evolution and its mechanism until we can dig deep, make it through the third density and what will occur in the first part of the fourth density so that the mechanisms of developing the mind-body-spirit complex can be brought out. If I get stymied someplace in one of these sessions as to what questions to ask and where, not to waste time, I may ask some questions that I will use later in the book, but we'll try to always continue along these lines. First question. To go back just a little bit, is what happened to the second density entities who were on this planet who were unharvestable? I assume that there were some that didn't make the harvest into the third density. Can you tell me this? Ra. I am Ra. The second density is able to repeat during third density a portion of its cycle. Questioner. Then the second density entities that did not get harvested at the beginning of the 75,000-year period, some are still in second density on this planet, and maybe were any of these who remained in second density harvested into third density in the past 75,000 years? Ra. I am Ra. This has been increasingly true. Questioner. So more and more second density entities are making it into third density. Will you give me an example of a second density entity coming into third density, say, in the recent past? Ra. I am Ra. Perhaps the most common occurrence of second density graduation during third density cycle is the so-called pet. The animal which is exposed to the individualizing influences of the bond between animal and third density entity. This individuation causes a sharp rise in the potential of the second density entity, so that upon the cessation of physical complex the mind-body complex does not return unto the undifferentiated consciousness of that species, if you will. Questioner. Then can you give me an example of an entity in third density that was just previously a second density entity? What type of entity do they become here? Ra. I am Ra. As a second density entity returns as third density for the beginning of this process of learning, the entity is equipped with the lowest, if you will so call these vibrational distortions, forms of third density consciousness, that is, equipped with self-consciousness. Questioner. This would be a human in our form then who would be beginning the understandings of third density. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner. Speaking of the rapid change that occurred in the physical vehicle for the change from second to third density. This, you said, occurred in approximately a generation and a half. Body hair was lost and there were structural changes. I am aware of the physics of Dewey B. Larson, who states that all is motion or vibration. Am I correct in assuming that the basic vibration, which makes up the physical world, as we experience it, changes, thus creating a different set of parameters, shall I say, in this short period of time between density changes allowing for the new type of vehicle? Am I correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner. Just as a sideline, a side question here. Is the physics of Dewey Larson correct? Ra. I am Ra. The physics of sound vibrational complex, Dewey, is a correct system as far as it is able to go. There are those things which are not included in this system. However, those coming after this particular entity, using the basic concepts of vibration and the study of vibrational distortions, will begin to understand that which you know of as gravity, and those things you consider as n-dimensions. These things are necessary to be included in a more universal, shall we say, physical theory. Questioner. Was this entity, Dewey, then, did he bring this material through in his incarnation for use primarily in fourth density? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner. Thank you. Yesterday we were speaking of the split that takes place in third density when an entity, either consciously or because of bias, chooses the path of service to others or service to self. The philosophical question of why such a split even exists came up. It is my impression that as it is in electricity, if we have no polarity in electricity, we have no electricity, we have no action, we have no. Therefore, I am assuming that in consciousness, without such polarity there would be no action or experience. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. You may use the general term work. Questioner. Then the concept of service to self and service to others is mandatory if we wish to have work, whether it be work in consciousness or work in the mechanical or Newtonian concept in the physical. Is this correct, Ra? I am Ra. This is correct with one addendum. The coil, as you may understand this term, is wound, is potential, is ready. The thing that is missing without polarizing is the charge. Questioner. Then the charge is provided by individualized consciousness. Is this correct, Ra? I am Ra. The charge is provided by the individualized entity using the inpourings and instreamings of energy by the choices of free will. Questioner. Thank you. As soon as the third density started 75,000 years ago, and we have incarnate third density entities, what was the average human lifespan at that time, Ra? I am Ra. At the beginning of this particular portion of your space-time continuum, the average lifetime was approximately 900 of your years. Questioner. Did the average lifespan grow longer or shorter as we progressed on into third density experience, Ra? I am Ra. There is a particular use for the span of life in this density, and, given the harmonious development of the learning teachings of this density, the lifespan of the physical complex would remain the same throughout the cycle. However, your particular planetary sphere developed vibrations by the second major cycle which shortened the lifespan dramatically. Questioner. Assuming a major cycle is 25,000 years, at the end of the first 25,000-year cycle, how long was the lifespan, Ra? I am Ra. The lifespan at the end of the first cycle, which you call major, was approximately 700 of your years. Questioner. Then in 25,000 years we lost 200 years of lifespan. Is this correct, Ra? I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner. Can you tell me the reason for this shortening of lifespan, Ra? I am Ra. The causes of this shortening are always an euphonious or inharmonious relational vibration between other selves. In the first cycle this was not severe, but due to the dispersion of peoples and the growing feeling complex distortions toward separateness from other selves. Questioner. I am assuming at the start of one of these cycles there could have been either a positive polarization that would generally occur over the 25 years, or a negative polarization. Is the reason for the negative polarization and the shortening of the cycle the influx of entities from Mars who had already polarized somewhat negatively, Ra? I am Ra. This is incorrect. There was not a strong negative polarization due to this influx. The lessening of the lifespan was due primarily to the lack of the building up of positive orientation. When there is no progress, those conditions which grant progress are gradually lost. This is one of the difficulties of remaining unpolarized. The chances, shall we say, of progress become steadily less. Questioner. The way I understand it, at the beginning of the 75,000-year cycle, then, we have a mixture of entities, those who have graduated from second density on Earth to become third density, and then a group of entities transferred from the planet Mars to incarnate in the third density here. Is this correct, Ra? I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner. What, continue, Ra? You must remember that those transferred to this sphere were in the middle of their third density, so that this third density was an adaptation rather than a beginning. Questioner. Thank you. What percentage of the entities, roughly, who were here in third density at that point were Martian, and what percentage were harvested out of Earth's second density, Ra? I am Ra. There were perhaps 1/2 of the third density population being entities from the red planet, Mars, as you call it. Perhaps 1/4 from second density of your planetary sphere. Approximately 1/4 from other sources, other planetary spheres, whose entities chose this planetary sphere for third density work. Questioner. When they incarnated here, did they mix? Did all three of these types mix together in societies or groups, or were they separated by group and society, Ra? I am Ra. They remained largely unmixed. Questioner. Then did this unmixing lend to a possibility of separation of group, then, or the possibility of warlike energy between groups, Ra? I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner. Did this then help to reduce the lifespan, Ra? I am Ra. This did reduce the lifespan, as you call it.